Hey guys, we're going to do another chapter 3 video here today, 3.3, and we're still working on how can I solve equations, but this time our essential question is how can I solve equations with decimals? So something handy for this video is it's probably nice to have your calculator, because if you can use your calculator with decimals, things go a little bit smoother and quicker, but you don't have to have your calculator to do very many of these. So we're just going to try some problems. We're going to do some examples, and the first example we'll do, which I'll call example 1, is we're going to solve for x. So I'm going to write solve for x. So you need to write that down in your notebook too, solve for x. And here is the problem that we're going to solve. We are going to solve x minus 6.2 equals 15.4. X minus 6.2 equals 15.4. Now, although this problem has decimals, it's really no different than all of the other problems we've been practicing with. So the idea is we put a line down the equal sign, and essentially we want x to be all by itself. We want to isolate the variable, get it alone. So here's the x. What do we need to get rid of, away from it, to make it be by itself? Well, we need to get rid of that minus 6.2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that minus 6.2 and move it over to get rid of it. Well, when we move it over, it flips. It becomes a plus 6.2. It changes. And so what's going to happen is the minus 6.2 is gone. X is now by itself, just like we wanted. And all we have to do is 15.4 plus 6.2, which again, you can do it by hand, or if you want to grab a calculator and kind of practice using your calculator a little bit, that's okay too. 15.4 plus 6.2, we'll put that in, is going to equal, let's see if you can see that on my screen, 21.6. So 21.6 is our solution for x. So I'm going to write that, 21.6, and I'm going to circle this as my answer. Now let's say you're taking a test or an exit ticket, or you're getting graded and you really want to show someone that you really have this down and you want that level 4 advanced score. What are some things we could add onto this problem? Well, first off, when we did this move and we added the 6.2 over, there's a name for that. We have a property, so we could justify our steps. So over here I'm going to write, on the main idea side, justify. In math, when we justify, we are explaining what we are doing. We are kind of proving it with some words. So when I added that 6.2 over, the name of that is called the addition, which I'm just going to write add, property of equality. And the way that works is we are adding the 6.2, so addition. Property means that this is a math rule that you can do this, and equality means we have an equal sign, which we do. So the addition, property of equality. So I could add that onto my problem, absolutely. What else could I do to prove that I am right? Well, I could check my answer. We could do a check. So that's the next thing I'm going to do is down below, I'm going to check and see if our solution is correct. So we're going to write check. And to do our check, we copy the problem that we started with. So it was x minus 6.2 equals 15.4. So we're going to copy that problem, make sure we get it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see if 21.6 really is the solution for x. So if 21.6 is our answer, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to circle the x, and I'm going to change it to 21.6. So instead of x minus 6.2, I have 21.6 minus 6.2 equals 15.4. And the question is that true? Is 21.6 minus 6.2 really 15.4? So we can easily check that. I'm going to clear out my calculator. We're going to put in 21.6, and then we're going to take away, what was our number? 6.2. So we're going to take away 6.2 and see if we get 15.4. We do. Sweet. 15.4. So that means that this is 15.4, and it was supposed to equal 15.4, and it does. They match up. We're going to check it, which means up here 21.6 is the right answer. So now I really have some level 4 work here. It's pretty advanced. I've got my solving, I've got my addition property, I've got my check. A common mistake that some people do is they circle this as their final answer, the check, don't forget, what you're doing is proving that this is really your answer, 21.6. So keep this circled answer, 21.6. Just check mark that it worked. Okay, so let's do another example of how to do this, you guys. So we're going to do example 2 now. And our directions are solve for W. So we are going to solve for W. And here's the problem you want to write down in your notebook. We're going to solve 6.5 plus W equals negative 2.4. 6.5 plus W equals negative 2.4. So what's our strategy? Well, the strategy is put the line down the equal sign, split the problem. We want to get W by itself. We want to isolate W. So if it's 6.5 plus W, we got to get rid of the 6.5. So we're going to move that 6.5 over. And because the 6.5 is positive, when it moves over, it becomes a negative 6.5. So we are subtracting the 6.5 away. Then at this point, it's a matter of negative 2.4 and negative 6.5. I see that as like same signs, add and keep. So we're going to add those together. And it's totally fine if you grab a calculator and do that in a calculator, or add it up by hand. 2 plus 6 would be 8, and 4 plus 5 would be 9. So it's 8.9, but it's negative 8.9. So our solution is W equals negative 8.9. And if I stop right here, like if I was on a test or something, this is proficient. Like I've solved and I've showed my steps and I've circled my answer and it's organized work, but I kind of like to push myself to go for that advanced score. So I'm going to add some extra stuff to this problem. I'm going to label my justification here. When we subtracted the 6.5, when we flipped it to a negative, that's that subtraction property of equality. I'm going to add that label on so we have it. I'm also going to check my answer and verify that it's right. So to do our check, we write the word check and we basically copy the problem again. So we write that 6.5 plus W equals negative 2.4, but I'm not going to solve it again. Instead, I think I already know the answer. I think it's negative 8.9. So right where that W is, I'm going to change it to our now what we think is the answer, negative 8.9, which means that 6.5 plus W is now 6.5 plus negative 8.9. And if it equals negative 2.4, then we're all good. We did this right. So our job is to do that math. 6.5 plus negative 8.9. I see that as a positive 6.5 and a negative 8.9. I see that as different signs. And the rule is different signs subtract. So we're going to subtract those numbers. Again, if you want to use a calculator, that's fine. But that is negative 2.4. So negative 2.4 is equal to negative 2.4. I'm going to put a big check mark by this because now I know, yes, my answer does work. And the real correct answer is W equals negative 8.9. And now I've got my level 4 advanced work. I've got my property labeled. I've got my check. I've solved it. I've circled my answer. Super well organized, and it really verifies that I know what I'm doing. Okay, so you've seen a couple of these. Now it's your turn. Let's test this out. This is the best way to practice and make sure you really actually get something. So your directions are to solve for M, and your problem to write down in your notebook is M minus 5.1 equals negative 7.8. Now, right now, hit the pause button on your device and see if you can get a level 4 in your work on this. Go. All right, you ready to check your answer? Let's see how you did. So I'm going to go through my process here. I'm going to put my line down the equal sign. I know M needs to be all by itself, so that minus 5.1 is going to have to flip to the other side and become a plus 5.1. And when I do that, plus 5.1 means I'm using that addition property. So addition property of equality is going to be the label I give it. Now negative 7.8 plus 5.1, that's different signs subtract. So I'm going to get a negative 2.7 as my solution. Did you get negative 2.7? Did you get the same thing as me? If not, you might go back and double check your process. And I'm going to double check myself too. I'm going to do my check, my level 4 check. So I'm going to take this problem, which is that M minus 5.1 equals negative 7.8. And we think we have our answer for M. So I'm going to circle M and draw a little arrow under it. And I'm going to change it to negative 2.7. So instead of M minus 5.1, it's negative 2.7 minus 5.1. And it better equal negative 7.8 or something's wrong. So we're going to combine this together. It's actually kind of a KCC problem because it's subtraction. So it's really negative 2.7 plus negative 5.1, which is same signs, add and keep. So we're going to add 2.7 and 5.1, and that is negative 7.8. So this works out. This is a check mark problem. Negative 7.8 equals negative 7.8. We're all good. So look at your work and look at my work. Did we show it the same way? Did you circle your answer? Did you do your check? Did you remember to write out the property? Because if you're remembering all of those things, then you're really getting this down. Okay, so one more example for our video here, example 3, and I'm going to change it up on this problem. This time we have a little bit of a story problem, and our story is about Ella. And Ella was working on a problem, and she got the answer x equals negative 2.7. And our question is she correct? Is Ella correct, and how do you know? So we're going to look at what Ella was solving. Here's Ella's problem. X plus negative 3.1 equals negative 9.8. And she got the answer negative 2.7. So is Ella correct? Well, how could we solve this problem? We could put a line down the equal sign and we could just solve it just like she did. But why don't we just check her answer? She already has a solution, so why don't we go for a check process? Let's circle the X and check her work and see if she's right. So she got x is equal to negative 2.7. So instead of x plus negative 3.1, hers would be negative 2.7 plus negative 3.1. And it should equal negative 9.8. So we're going to combine negative 2.7 plus negative 3.1. That's two negatives, so that's same signs, add and keep. So 2.7 plus 3.1, that'd be 5.8, negative 5.8. Negative 5.8 does not equal negative 9.8. I'm going to put a big, watch this, I'm going to put a big red slash through the equal sign because those are not equal to each other, so we better cross out the equal sign. And I guess this kind of verifies that. I think Ella made a mistake in her work. Sorry, Ella, I think something went wrong. We got to go back and fix it. And our job was to say, is Ella correct and how do you know? So what I'm going to say is Ella is incorrect. And I'm also going to say, I know this because when I checked her solution, it did not work. So I think it's really important that you add that part of your sentence on. I know this because when I checked her solution, it did not work. So that means Ella, if I was Ella right now and I had done this and I checked my work and it didn't check out, it didn't actually work, then I would go all the way back and start the problem over and try to figure out where was my mistake. All right, so thanks for watching, you guys, and we will continue to practice this over and over in class because this is just a skill that we really, really want to get down well, because all through high school math, you're going to need to be able to solve for variables and equations, and the more we practice, the better we get at this stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in class. Bye.